Get it out of the way.
Welcome to Pucknology After Dark. We are here after the game for Los Angeles versus the Sharks at the SAP Center with a Sharks unfortunate defeat, 4-1 at the hands of the Kings. Uh, please tweet us at using the hashtag Pucknology After Dark. Here are all of our Twitter handles. You can reach us at any one of these handles, and again, use the hashtag. We are live on scene with Mr. Puck Guy himself. Eric, what are your initial thoughts?
Good evening, guys. As I make my way to my car at San Pedro Square, my initial thoughts. Well, I'm in a public forum, so I really can't say too much. Um,
Think
you
of
know,
the
this,
children.
yes, I think of the freaking children. Um, Probably one of the most worst shellackings I've seen. Uh, no hope, no heart. If there was ever a game that describes how you can have the referees dictate the game and the flow, tonight was it. The Sharks weren't getting anything going, and they were getting their calls, uh, and the Kings were doing nothing. I mean, when's the last time you saw somebody without the puck just get interfered with? He goes off to the bench, or he goes off into the locker room, and nothing gets called. That's like interference. I don't know, charging. Like Rafi Torres got for 41 games, or how Zach Renato got away with murder. Uh, it's really frustrating because that's how things have gone tonight. Starks put up a boatload of shots, but again, they make a backup look like a freaking Vesna candidate, and I don't get it. They are very sloppy in their own zone. Um, I was hoping that Tire Fire would stop being used on this program, but to be absolutely honest, it's back and better than ever. I'm wondering if Matt Irwin is available because what we saw tonight is absolutely atrocious. I don't know. I just don't get why this is happening over and over again. Logan Couture, Paul Martin, we miss you terribly. And something's got to change soon. Otherwise, where's Doggy Wilson when you need him?
I tried. I really tried. Like, you can ask these guys. I really tried.
Say it to my face, you motherfucker!
Say it to my doggy face, motherfucker!
I mean, what in the fuck were the fucking Sharks fucking doing? For those who never heard me curse before, there you go.
I'm
Hope you're
sorry.
happy, because that's
This has just turned into a Kevin Smith movie. Go ahead.
Snooty Hooches. It just
Cheese.
Yeah.
it just became one embarrassment after another. They looked heartless after the 4-1 goal. They looked. I'll take that back. They actually looked heartless after the 2-0 goal. I mean, they took the life out of the building. The referees finished it off for them with some horrible BS calls. I mean, yeah, Wingles takes a hooking call. The guy goes down, and then at the end of the play, I think it was Tanner Pearson who slashes Wingles. Wingles slashes back, and the guy's like, no problem. There were 2 instances where it looked like the puck was cleared over the glass, no call. It's just ridiculous. You combine it, you can't really blame the refs, but tonight you certainly can. And the Sharks have to get their shit together. I don't know if it's bag skate or whatnot, but to go from 234 minutes of shutout hockey, you had all the confidence in the world, all the swagger going on, where you look like you're about a team to do something special, to now you basically blow another 8-point lead in the division, and now all of a sudden the Kings are right behind them, and Vancouver is right behind them, and they just don't get it.
Yeah, let me give everybody a little bit of an update on the standings. San Jose has played 7 games. They're leading the division right now, 4-3. with a row of 3. Vancouver has played 7 games. They are 3-2-2 with 8 points and a row of 2. You have Arizona playing 7 games. They're 3-3-1 with a row of 3. And then Los Angeles, like Buckeye said, has played 6 games, are now 500 at 3-3 with a row of 3. So yeah, the Kings have definitely made up that ground, and they're nipping at the heels of the Sharks and Vancouver and Arizona. Of course, the big thing is that Anaheim has played 6 games, are still 1-4-1 with 3 points in a row of 1. So that is some good news because the supposed division leader is in 6th place in the Pacific Division right now. So AJ,
Which is good.
You know, it is good, but they already blew their cushion. So AJ, what were your initial reactions?
You know what? Go to Chris. I'm too pissed off right now.
All right, Chris.
I'll go all sunshine and rainbows here. I am playing the role of Puck Guy 14 tonight. Okay, not really, but I'll say almost the same thing I said a few games ago. There's a shitload of games left. There's 75 games left. A couple nights ago, it was 78. They're not as bad as this 3-game skid. They're not as good as their 4-game winning streak. Paul Martin is showing himself to be the most important defenseman on the team. Not the most talented, but the most important. It's obvious when he's in place. I mean, again, it was a small sample size, but it seems to me when he was in place, the defense made more sense. Braun and Vlasic can be that second pairing that matches up hard against the tough forwards on the other team. Burns and Martin make sense in most other situations, and then the last pairing just kind of cleans up the garbage. And then add in the Logan Couture injury. I mean, it's everything. It's raining, it's pouring for the Sharks, but I don't think this is the end of the world. Let's ride it out. Let's hope Paul Martin comes back, because I think the defense has been night and day. With Paul Martin, without Paul Martin, it hasn't even been the same defense, has it not? Like, when he was in there, we weren't seeing so many odd man rushes. I mean, we were just seeing him continuously all night. All 3 of these games, we've seen a ton of odd man rushes. I would bet anything if I went in there and I tallied them up, we probably had more tonight than the first 4 games combined. So I'm going to go with the not as pessimistic view of they can recover out of this, but they need Paul Martin back, and badly.
And
Chris,
for those just kind of an update on Paul Martin. He did skate today. He was practicing, but he was ruled out at the end of the skate. So that's a good thing he's back on the ice. But it's probably gonna be, and maybe the Carolina game, maybe the game after. I'm not even sure.
Landy, you asshole! You jumped on top of my comic. Chris left it wide open for me to throw out. Chris, you ignorant slut, and you ruined it.
Okay, you just want me to say something else? Like,
no. But it was just a perfect. It was just a perfect setup
I think
for it.
Brendan Dillon is well paid.
Yes, of course. Chris, you ignorant slut. Oh my God, Eric! Either talk or mute. One or the other, man. You're killing me over here.
Sorry, my bad. Go on.
It's that.
No, go ahead. Get your stuff off there, Puck, and then we'll move on.
Quick shout out from Rocket Sarah as we were walking back. She says not to blame solely Brendan Dillon tonight.
No, of course not.
It's everybody, but tonight, yeah, we're missing Paul Martin.
Yeah.
And that's where AJ would call me an ignorant slut. Okay.
No, we're missing Paul Martin. The Sharks, for me, see, there's no way I'm not going to get just rain fire upon me after saying this. Yes, okay. I'm a Dylan hater. Call me what you will. I'm not a fan. The guy got 20 minutes tonight. Let's be honest, if Paul Martin was healthy and was in, he might sniff 12. But he got 20 minutes tonight. Not great. Not that anybody was great tonight. Burns, 27 minutes tonight. Had massive brain farts up and down the ice. Marlowe gets demoted again, now under the DeBoer tenure. Once again, you could say, oh, shit, well, look at this. It's another backup goalie curse, or it's the curse of the black sweater. Whatever.
No, it's the curse of Buffalo, and Roth played for
Yes.
Buffalo.
That, too. You could throw that in there, but it does harken to, one of my favorite lines, what's the difference between a vacuum and Dylan? You have to plug in a vacuum before it'll suck. But anyway, for me, the entire team for the most part pretty much shit the bed. I mean, you can go top to bottom. Thornton blowing that tire, whatever the hell happened to him in the corner where he was just wobbly. That was like, what happened there? I'm still trying to figure out. It's like, I understand Donskoy is injured. I get that. Why would you replace him on the top line? Yeah, okay, Nieto played really well a game or two ago. That's great. Why are you going to put a guy that has had zero finish in his entire tenure with the Sharks up on your top line? That makes no sense to me.
0 goals he's ever had, right?
I'm sorry?
The 0 goals he has, right? No finish whatsoever.
I'm not saying he has 0 goals, but when you think, dude, you're really going to sit there and tell me that you can't name 3 other fucking guys that would be better to put up on the top line when you have Pavs and Thornton there? Nieto is your fucking go-to guy?
They've never completely stacked all the best guys up there. They've usually put another young guy up there to kind of ride on their coattails.
But you don't think
the
Wingles
modus
is a better
operandi.
selection? You don't think Wingles is a better selection?
I'm willing to bet if I looked up their stats and compared them, Nieto probably scores as much as Wingles or more. I believe Wingles' career best was 11 goals in a season.
But let's at least take a look at it. That's all I'm saying. At least Wingles is at least a bigger and a stronger player. I'd rather see that up there on the top line. And if you're going to load speed, then load up speed. I'd rather see a much speedier line. But everybody looked lost tonight, and then, of course, we looked at how great in the first 4 wins the special teams were. They killed off 11 straight penalties. They went like 20% on the power play. Tonight, what do? Fucking 0 for 6, and they go 50% on the PK. They only killed half the goddamn penalties. Jeff Carter is all of a sudden is a fucking all-star against us. It's just, I mean, I don't know what happened other than the injury bug, and it just really points out, first off, how the Sharks just really have no depth beyond that starting core. I mean, who else is there? Haley looks okay when he's with the Barracuda, and he's offensively, he has some offense to his game, but the Barracuda games that I've seen so far when I've watched Haley, he's pretty bad on defense, and he's not the best stick handler in tight. He'll lose control of the puck. But driving the lane on offense, he's actually pretty good, and he's got some decent speed to his game. It's to me, once again, I go back to the defense. The defense. They say it wins championships. If you're ranking this defense 1 through 6, who is your top defensive player? Is it Vlasic? Is it Martin?
Well, kind of backtracking a little bit, looking at Nieto's career point total. So in 144 games, he's got 54 points, which is good for .36 points per game. And Wingles has got 98 points in 238 games. So he's got a .411 points per game percentage. So at this point, we're kind of splitting hairs between Nieto and Tommy Wingles.
It also depends. If you also have to look at where they play, hasn't Nieto gotten a little more time on the second line, and Wingles has usually been more on the third line up until this season?
Well, no, Wingles has been primarily a third line player. I mean, he has played second line minutes at times. Well,
like you said, dude, we're splitting hairs over this. I'm just saying I would at least like to see Wingles get a look. That was just my point.
No, and I kind of I've got that listed on my notes here. It's what do you guys think about the centers and how they're deployed? I mean, do you think that the top line needs to be split up at this point?
Uh,
That girl that you saw,
uh,
whatever her name
uh,
is.
are we bugging? Okay, thank you. Well, hold on. Before we get to the centers, I want to finish off with the defense at this point. You'd be hard pressed to find if you're going to stack up the defense. You'd probably put Vlasic 1, Martin 2, Burns 3, Braun 4. Right?
I'm kind of with you actually. I would keep Vlasic and Braun together because those two
No,
have
no, no.
proven
I'm not.
to be an effective pair. Okay, no. Just a second.
not-
Let me
But
finish.
I'm not talking about pairs. I'm just ranking them 1 through 6.
Okay.
Who's your best?
I'm
Who's your best
just-
defenders?
on the general thought, though, I mean, it's not best is only as important as the actual pairings because we see Paul Martin. You want to argue he's the best defenseman on this team, but
No,
I
I'm
would
not
argue
arguing that.
I would say I would argue he's the most important though. I would say at this point they've been they based themselves around Burns Martin early, and now they're just basing themselves around Burns as the anchor of the defense. That can't happen anymore. It's got to switch to a Vlasic Braun top pairing, and then have Burns take less minutes than those two, and let those two be the rock, because they're not going to score as much and create as much offense, but they're not going to give up as many bad rushes as Burns will. And I think that's the main point I would go with, because
I get that. My point
pure
is
skill alone is only so important.
No, I get that. But that wasn't the exact point. My exact point was when we were playing LA in the playoffs, we lost Vlasic. And what happened? The entire defense fell apart. And now, where are we at? We lost one guy, Paul Martin. And what's happened? The entire defense has fallen apart.
Well,
And
so
it
I
goes,
think
I'm not fucking finished, God damn it. But the entire defense has fallen apart. You've got our general manager is a fucking former defenseman who's seen an all-star game, was a captain. Why is this team, and we've lamented on this so many times, why are they so bad at drafting and bringing up defensemen? Mueller still not ready for prime time. Let's not even get into Doherty and Petrecki and Wissert and the other fucking flubs that they've done in the draft. But why can't this team? You look at like the guys that Chicago put in front of Niemi and Seabrook, Campbell, Bufflin, Sopel, Hammer. I mean, it was just a murderer's row on the defensive end. Whereas the Sharks, for the last however many years, you know, Boyle, Vlasic, one other decent guy, and then the bottom three suck. And we're kind of, it's like just another year of that same thing. It's like Vlasic, Martin, Burns, you know, Braun has his good days and his bad days, and I'm sorry, but I'm just, you know, when Dylan is getting that much money, and yeah, I'm going to ride that, when Dylan's getting, you know, 3-4 money and he's not better than 5-6, that's on Doug Wilson. He needs to spend his money much better on defense. I would much rather see Tennyson out there getting more minutes. I'm just, all right, I'm sorry, I have my thing, but I'm so fucking sick of seeing the Sharks peter away defense when one injury, and it's like a house of cards, man. You take away one card, the whole thing crashes down.
okay.
And
I was
so,
actually
Chester
thinking
Chivo
the
and Gen
exact
X,
same
go ahead.
thing.
Chester Chivo and Gen X, go ahead, throw up your AJ Smash pictures. All right, go ahead, Landy.
No, so I just gotta say
one thing real quick. I was actually about to say the same thing about the frickin' House of Cards, because that's the thing is this defense. That I mean, I agree with you completely, AJ. You're right about the whole Doug Wilson thing. Okay, Eric, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna kind of writing on what everybody is saying here. We all know that the defensive depth is not good, and we know that people are being miscast when Paul Martin is out. So what do you have to do in that situation? In that situation, the system has to adapt, meaning that the forwards have to come back farther to back check, meaning that the forwards have to be stronger on men in the transition. That's how you help out the defense.
The forwards won't matter if you're giving up 2-on-1s though.
There you go.
But you shouldn't be giving up 2-on-1s if you're back checking hard enough.
Oh no, okay. Back checking by forwards is not going to break up it can help on 2-on-1s, but you shouldn't be giving up in the first place.
Yeah, so why are
that shouldn't even be happening in the first place. That's not on the forwards at all. If a forward can break up a 2-on-1, that's a bonus.
No, so a forward shouldn't be that far up in the offensive zone so that he's giving up a 2-on-1 like that.
That's not on the forward. Okay, occasionally it might be if the defenseman is pinching and it's good communication and all that. But we've seen the way most of these 2-on-1s develop. It's not usually because some forward didn't do their job. It's usually because Burns jumped in at an inopportune time. When lovely Scott Hannon was here, he would.
So the forwards have to adapt for that. So the forwards have to come back to the point.
I mean, essentially, we have to play three people back at all times. I mean,
well, if Burns is going to be on the ice and going to be doing what he does, then yes. I mean, the Russian
system can't operate like that. That you just can't. It's got to start with the defense doing the right thing.
How can you just not? The Russians.
Well, I'm saying he's got to control his urges first. But it's got to start there.
Okay, but we've been saying this for the whole time he's been a defenseman, and has he done it? No. You've had Larry frickin' Robinson trying to train him to be a good defenseman, and he still doesn't get it.
It's almost like he should be a forward or something.
Patrick, Chester Chivo, if one of you guys can convert Landy and Chris into a Hulk meme, I'd appreciate it. Go ahead, guys.
Well, it's almost like Burns should be a forward or something. I don't know.
Agreed.
And I've heard one or two people say this idea. I don't know. Maybe. But
yeah,
I'll
He's
say
the Buffalo option.
One last time, and then we'll move on from this. I'm just saying, it's got to start with Burns being more disciplined. That's it. Like, the forwards can't be hanging way back to cover his ass because we'll never have any offense. I mean, what it won't be like the 2008 Minnesota Wild that scored like one goal every other game.
That's not the 2008 Wild. I mean, it's not only them. If you go back, the 2008 Sharks did a lot of that, where you had to have a forward helping out defensemen time after time after time. This is not something new for the Sharks, which once again goes back to my point of they need to stop fucking around and get some real goddamn D and stop overpaying for guys who aren't bringing anything to the picnic.
Okay, I think we beat that one sufficiently to that.
Absolutely. Let's talk about these godforsaken special teams. Dude, what the fuck has happened? I mean, is Couture really the linchpin of the power play? And is Paul Martin the linchpin of the penalty kill? I mean,
when Couture is playing on the point, he's the linchpin, right? Because if you put Tennyson on the point, he looks fucking lost.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the point. Is that we see other teams. I mean, okay, Duncan Keith is now out 4 to 6 weeks. Are we going to see Chicago's defense just completely cave and crash like we have with the Sharks?
No, but their defensive system on a whole is different, right?
Theirs is next man up, not a house of cards. Ours just kind of.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, because
there's like one configuration ours works well, and after that, yeah.
I don't think it's the drafting and solely drafting and development. Now I'm not saying that Doug Wilson gets a free pass, because Lord knows he hasn't drafted defensemen well, but when you have Trevor Van Riemsdyk as your 5th or 6th man defenseman, you know, that's not a good depth either. They're just able to cope with it because they have a defensive system where all 5 guys play defense and not just offense, and are able to cope with it. That's what I'm trying to say, is these guys are not working as 5-man units. They're working as 3 separate forwards and 2 separate defensemen.
Yeah. Well, and once again, I still get back to the spend your money wisely, just because we're stuck with Dylan now till 2020 at 3.2 per season. I don't understand why he was given such a ridiculously long contract. And if you like, just a couple names to throw out there, like Jason Demers, the guy that we traded to get Dylan for, is playing more minutes with more points and is getting $1 million less in Dallas. And Matt Green, who was I felt has been more of a factor so far than Dylan. He's only getting 2.5, and so I just feel as much as Wilson throws in that, oh well, he's got a good hockey IQ, or and our personal favorite, he has a ring, he has cup experience, which was so goddamn laughable with the Niemi signing, and I mean, what other ones? Kennedy.
Oh God, can we just can the whole cup experience thing ever?
Exactly.
Does not fucking matter. You're either good or you're not.
Exactly.
On the Demers thing, like, do you really want Demers back? Like,
no.
Okay,
No,
I'm just
I
gonna say,
hated
like,
Demers. But what I'm saying though is that you traded away a guy that is being paid less, but has more production. So I'm saying, overall, it's a bad trade. It's another bad trade.
After a handful of games, but okay, let's not get into the defense thing again. But here's also the problem: is Doug Wilson is expecting the defense to be the main spark of his offense, which is the big reason why Burns is so goddamn irresponsible. I mean, we've seen, like, that's part of the problem of this team as well. It's not just been the defense. The defense has been where it started, but it's partially because the offense needs that spark from the defense. And that's kind of how Doug Wilson's built this team, and that's why it's a house of cards, because you have the defense only works in one good alignment. It's just frustrating the way this has all come down. It's like deja vu every season when it comes to the defense.
Well, let's touch on one other thing here real fast. Marleau demoted yet again. Now, obviously, for me, this is a little bit of a sign of DeBoer following through on his preseason comments, or I don't even know if it was his actual comments or just comments that were about him, that he's not afraid to sit a guy if he feels that the guy is not producing, doesn't have his heart in it, isn't showing the effort that he expects out of the player, what have you. Why is it, and now when I say Marleau keeps getting demoted, I'm not saying it happens every other game. I'm saying this is like the third or fourth time it's happened over the last season. We saw McClellan do it a couple times.
Okay, so Marleau. So just before we get any deeper into this rant, Marleau was so-called demoted, but if you look at his ice time, he had 21 minutes as a forward. That's crazy. So even though he got demoted, his usage is still extremely high for a forward.
Yeah, but a lot of that has to do with
why he was utilized less late in the game. He was utilized pretty heavily early.
Yeah, no, right. He was utilized heavily early. He wasn't demoted until the third period, so you have that. But you also have to factor in on that ice time is that there were 6 power plays.
Yeah, exactly. Though that's part of the ice time. Though, if he's getting a ton of ice time and maybe he might have been freaking tired for all we know. But this whole demoted thing comes up again and again. He's the 4th scorer on the team, although granted this is early. He's scoring just as well as almost anyone on the team right now. Like, there's only a few people ahead of him. So I don't know. Pretty much all these demotions have always come in the late part of a blowout, once or twice a season. I think we're reading way too much into that.
Right.
Well, okay. Well, then let's put this out there. Landy, why do you think the Sharks came out so lackluster tonight when they had, a couple days off? Granted, LA's had like 3 days off. They've played their first. We can get into the whole scheduling thing, later, where LA gets to start off with 5 games at home, and then their first road trip is 400 miles away. Seriously?
Yeah.
But we can get into that. But why do you think that the Sharks just came out, just kind of? It was it just reminded me of some of those T-Mac games where you would see they would give up that first goal, like they would play decent, and I don't even know that they started that decent, but they would play okay, and then that first goal happens, and then the whole team just falls into a shell.
Yeah, no, I think when you break this game down, let's say the first 15 minutes of the game looked pretty decent. They were getting quite a few shots on goal, peppering Enroth a little bit. Where I feel that this game really started to deteriorate was after that first goal, and then they stopped trusting each other. You had way too many selfish passes where you're trying to thread the needle, trying to get the guy behind the defense, not getting it to his stick, but getting to where they thought he was going to go.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you. Were they being too cute?
No, I don't think cute. I don't think cute is the word. I think they weren't trusting each other. I don't think that they were trusting each other to do the system. I think it was they were all trying to do too much.
Now, do you think that the whole thing about doing too much and trust and whatnot, do you think that has something to do with the fact that, for the most part, just about every one of these players is on a line now with somebody that they're not used to?
I think that's part of it, and I think the other part is that with the call-ups trying to be integrated, I don't think they know about the call-ups too much. I don't think that they have a good idea of where Michael Haley is going to be, or where Brian Lerg is going to be, or where Mueller ends up being. So I think it's a combination of line mate, not being familiar with your line mates, and just roster turnover. And we were talking about this last episode, and is there some kind of disconnect between the farm and the system being taught up in the NHL?
Oh, let's bring Puck Guy in on that one so he can do his Roy Somner rant.
Oh my God! I mean, obviously, and we talked about this last episode. Sommer's been through the systems of Daryl Sutter, Ron Wilson, Todd McClellan, and now Peter DeBoer. And in those four systems, nothing has changed, really. He can't develop shit. The players that were supposed to be the big guys coming in, I'm looking at you, Nick Petrecki, couldn't do shit. I mean, these guys that are coming through the development system suck more than a Dyson vacuum cleaner. It's ridiculous. And me and Rocket were talking about this as we were walking back tonight. It's like, this felt like Todd McClellan was back behind the bench. Joe was doing his little, I'm just going to skate into his zone, and then I'm going to turn around at the top of the face-off circle. Or it's the fourth line. You guys were talking about Marlowe's ice time tonight. That fourth line, it's Lerg, Goodrow, and Haley. Or
no, it was Lord Brown.
Goodrow or Brown.
Yeah.
Would you want them out there on the fourth line? No. There's nothing to it. The Kings knew that, so they knew that they were going to get them tired down, and they were going to take advantage later on in the game. And when that 2-0 goal happened, that's when you knew they were in deep trouble already, and they couldn't do shit. But getting back to the development, they can't develop, and for some reason, this guy keeps his job after 18 years. I mean, seriously, if you guys aren't bringing in top-notch talent, like, say, Detroit is with their Grand Rapids affiliate, and how they're bringing in talent here and there, I mean, why are we keeping him around? This is ridiculous. How they can't develop. I'm sure it's a different system Sommer has, and so the guys that come up from the Barracuda or the Worcester Sharks or the Cleveland Barons beforehand or even the Kentucky Thoroughblades aren't on the same page with the NHL club because they don't know where they're supposed to be. They're just out there to play. It'd be like, hey, AJ, can you come in and fill in tonight on third line wing? And you'd
Absolutely.
be like, yeah, you'd be like, absolutely, sure, I'd do it. But do you know exactly where Chris Tierney will be?
Absolutely not.
Exactly, and that's the point. They have to get on the same page, and with the AHL club in the area, Sommer needs to, maybe have a talk with DeBoer and be like, okay, how do you want us to approach this? Because we can use this to our advantage, not just for calling up guys the day of and the day before, but afterwards, send them right back down. It's ridiculous. And as for the forwards, how you guys were touching about it earlier, well, at this point, can you bring up Stollery? Can you bring up anybody else from the Barracuda on D? And maybe, I don't know, here's an idea. Maybe use Burns at forward since he's such a defensive liability, since we're having a tough time finding a winger for Pavelski and Thornton.
That's a good point. I like that. But it also further goes to prove, and as Chris had said earlier, like, Paul Martin is like the most important piece of the defensive puzzle for this team for some bizarre reason, because we all heard about how great Burns was when what was it? DeBoer and McClellan were coaching him at like Worlds last season or something. We heard it. He got like some award or something like that. I mean, he was a phenomenal defenseman. I don't understand how that doesn't translate back here to the NHL. A couple of quick points though that we do need to touch on before we let Chris have his final thought and bring Ian into the conversation. And actually, the first comment is from Ian, who did point out that one of the reasons why Marlowe's time was up is because we did have Thornton out for a few minutes there with his whatever the hell that was. And from Davalos on the chat, on the Google chat, he had also made a very good point about the scheduling, about LA getting their first 5 games at home. Is that this is pre-basketball season, so they're taking advantage of the fact that the Clippers and the Lakers aren't yet playing, so they're kind of filling it in. So perhaps the Kings maybe have to finish their last 5 or 6 on the road. Who knows? I haven't seen that.
But that's like, okay, is the Rangers getting 5 or 6 at home to start the year? Are the Bruins doing the same thing?
It's actually not that uncommon at all, actually, for certain teams to be heavy. I mean, like a couple of years ago when they had renovations at Madison Square Garden, the Rangers did like 16 out of the first 17 on the road.
Yeah,
it's very, very, very common for building accommodations to play in the schedule.
Yeah.
But Minnesota, San Jose, and St. Louis all played their second home games tonight, and I think LA started their first 5. It just seems a little too buddy with the NHL,
Well, I mean, all those aren't sharing their building with an NBA team, though. None of those are sharing their building with an NBA team.
And we're also talking about the fact that we're talking about an NHL, a professional franchise scheduling system that can't figure out how the fuck to make it so the Sharks play LA and Anaheim back to back. So there you go.
Happened, I think, 2 times in history, right?
It happened last season, but they were so nice to wedge Christmas right in the fucking middle of it.
All right, go ahead.
Meanwhile, three teams have already played LA and Anaheim
Chris.
back to back.
All right, Chris, go ahead and get your final thoughts in.
Okay, so I'm about to sign off because I have a fucking 5 a.m. call. So 2 things. First, what I already said once, there's 75 games left. Let's relax a little bit. Just relax. And the second thing is depth. Fear the Fin had a great article on this with all the amount of parity in the NFL, the NHL. Depth is kind of a myth these days, but we're doing no services to ourselves with our current farm system and our drafting the way it is. So, yeah, I think those are the 2 big things I take away from this game. Have a good night, all. Peace the puck out.
There you go, man.
Right. Have a nice night, Chris. All right, we'll bring in Ian. He's with a writer with us at Pucknology. You've definitely seen him before on the show. Ian, what are your initial thoughts on the game?
I mean, look, I don't want to totally beat to death things that you guys have already beat to death. Obviously, the defense was atrocious. I thought that there was stretches of times where the Sharks literally just were not moving their feet. They were just standing around while the Kings took shots and moved the puck around, and they just kind of just stood there like, can I have the puck now? Do I have to actually do something to get it? What's going on here? So I mean, the defense was really bad. Here's kind of my thoughts, and you guys haven't haven't said this yet, so I'm kind of curious on what you guys think about this. My problem with the farm system and the call-ups right now, Goldobin wasn't perfect, but would you not have rather seen Goldobin up on the first line, Nieto down a line, and then not Haley and Lurg both in the lineup at the same time with Brown? Like, is that the worst 4th line that you could possibly ever put together on an NHL team?
Hell, at this point, I'd like to see Jev Lapal's or however the hell you say.
Yeah,
it.
or Carpenter even.
Yeah, or Jeremy Langolis. I mean, he's a decent 3rd liner, or even a skilled 4th liner. So yeah, the call-ups are typical Doug Wilson. Let's get the bruiser in. Mind you, this bruiser does have some skill, and he's showing us a little bit of a scoring touch, but he certainly didn't show that. Yeah, exactly. He certainly didn't show it tonight.
No. I mean, he's a scorer in the American Hockey League. Woohoo! I mean, if he was such a amazing scorer, he would have an NHL job, but he's just a borderline scorer in the AHL who also can goon it up when he needs to. My thoughts on Mike Brown are pretty clear at this point. Not my favorite player. And when you put a guy like that in the lineup with, again, you have that bottom line of Lurg, Haley, and Brown. I mean, it's just, what are you expecting from that line? I mean, how many minutes did that line play? Probably something stupid.
Probably. I need to address something very quickly on the
Sure.
Google chat from Davalos. He's talking about everybody gets 41 at home, 41 away, gets made up in the long run. Sharks get 9 of their final 12 at home. Do you want to start the season with 9 of the 12 at home? No, it has nothing to do with that. I don't give a shit if the Sharks start the first 10 on the road or end with the last 10 on the road. For me, that's not what it's about. It's the fact that when you've got the Sharks playing ridiculous travel schedules where they go play the Rangers, then they play Chicago, then they play Tampa Bay, then they play Montreal, then they play Dallas, then they play Colorado, and then they come home. When you've got these ridiculous cross-country schedules, it's already fait accompli based on the location of the Sharks. It is guaranteed every goddamn season they're going to travel more miles than any other NHL team. That's just a fact. That's how geography works. Science, bitch. No. But that's just the way that works.
Yeah.
So you would think that the NHL could at least put something together that when they go to play Vancouver, hey, they get a night off, and then, hey, the next night they play Calgary, the next night they play Edmonton, they come home. Quick 3-game roadie, bam, bam, boom, home. Hey, maybe go through Colorado on the way home, whatever. The fact that there has never, ever, ever, go check the schedule. Please prove me wrong. I'm hoping you do. But I cannot, for the life of me, ever remember the Sharks visiting Southern California and playing Anaheim I'm just throwing out random days, playing Anaheim on a Friday and LA on a Saturday. Never, ever, ever have I ever seen a back-to-back, yet it's the most obvious thing to do, and especially if you're going to try to at least accommodate the team that has to travel farther than any other team. How is it that if you're going to do 3 games in 4 nights, how do you not do Anaheim, LA back-to-back, day off, Arizona, boom, come home, or something along those lines? But the fact that the NHL just can't make that happen. If they're going to do the East Coast swing, at least this last East Coast swing made a bit of sense.
Yeah, it's just bringing that up in chat.
Exactly. The opening swing was actually good. I was impressed by that. I was surprised that somehow they didn't fucking wedge Tampa Bay in there somehow. You know what I mean? But that's my biggest point, is the fact that what clearly appears to be no effort on the part of the NHL to try to get at least a little bit of balance in the travel schedule for a team that is going to travel more than any other team. Because I guarantee you, if you go and you look at the Warriors' schedule last year, there was a couple times, if I remember correctly. Now, granted, I'm not a big basketball fan, but I have a couple friends that are, and if I remember correctly, they went down to LA last year to see them play the Clippers on one night and then the Lakers on the next night. And it's like, well, if they can figure this shit out in basketball that essentially has same type of scheduling, same kind of format and everything, the NHL for that at least needs to get their head pulled out of their ass. And I'm kind of surprised that Wilson or Plattner, anybody in the Sharks, hasn't made more of a stink about that, especially, like I said, I always go back to the LA-Anaheim thing. How is it that every team that comes out here from the East always plays those two teams back to back?
Yeah, they play the Sharks one night, they'll travel to Anaheim or LA the next night, and then they play the night after that, and they play Anaheim the night after that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's like I've yet to see it. I've yet to see like the Rangers or the Canadians or whatever come out here, play LA, go up to Vancouver, then play San Jose, then play Arizona, then play Anaheim and go home. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Eric.
I was gonna sorry. I'll make this my final thought. It's kind of funny too, guys. Remember last year, right before the Stadium Series, that the Sharks had to go to Dallas, then they had their practice day, and then they played the outdoor game. Meanwhile, LA played in Colorado on a Wednesday, or maybe it was Tuesday, had 3 days off before the outdoor game, and were nice and refreshed. It's stuff like that where you start thinking, along with all the BS officiating and Department of Player Safety calls, you start wondering, okay, what did the Sharks do to you, Bettman? I mean, because this is starting to get really ridiculous really quickly.
Yeah. No, I mean, I totally agree, and part of me wonders if the schedule makers lay out all of the East Coast teams first and get no, seriously.
That is awesome.
They just listen to me, and why it might make sense is that they set up all of the East Coast teams first, and they get all of their NBC matchups, all of their matchups that they want to be on NHL Network, on NBC, on Hockey Night in Canada, you know, all of their prime time real estate, and then fit the Western teams in afterwards, and then try and make some marquee matchups in the West, because then they can kind of wiggle the Western teams in. The way it should be done is the Western teams should be plotted out first in logical order. Then everybody else should come after that because they have the most miles to travel, so therefore their schedule should be set first, and then everybody else worked around them.
Oh, but you forget a very important factor: television, national television games, where
I guarantee you, that's why the Sharks.
Oh, it's exactly why it is. Well, it's why a lot of the West teams get screwed because East Coast bias is definitely a real thing. You have teams like Philadelphia and Chicago and Pittsburgh and Washington. You know, these guys are all going to be super, you know, lots of games on CSN for all the national games. You know, Boston's another one. And that's, I mean, you know, I get it. Those teams bring, you know, the Eastern teams bring more ratings than the West teams. I get that. But, I mean, that's a big part of it, and that's why we get screwed a little bit more, too.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and I think the Sharks have played from a rigged deck since they came in, and I mean I'm not gonna be a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist here because Detroit had a fucking shit time when they were in the West Coast and had to, you know, play all the Western teams first. So you know, by not, you know, I'm just, it just really irritates me that
you know what?
Eastern teams.
Detroit still easier travel schedule than the Sharks.
Now sure.
it's no, I'm saying even before then. Now it sucked for their fans when you had, you know, a at least a third of their games coming on locally at 10:30 at night, but still easier travel schedule than the Sharks.
But and even with that though too, I mean, you know, at least they have the fan base that could endure that kind of thing because of their establishment for so long. You take a look just a little bit east of there, and then you're in Columbus, which had to deal with that, and you know, just almost tanked their franchise from being stuck in the West so long.
Yeah.
No, I mean, so I understand where Puck Guy comes from, and I am upset about it. And in a perfect world, the Western teams would be mapped out first. Their games would be mapped out first, and then you would fit everything else into it. But we live in a Eastern biased league, and that's just how it is.
Eastern biased
world. And Chris, but Chris also points out, and once again we get into science, bitch. No, I'm sorry, geography, bitch. Is just that the East Coast teams just plain have less miles to travel than most of their, you know, to get to most of their immediate opponents, which totally makes sense. You look at like the Rangers and it's like, oh look, the Islanders are like, you know, I could get on the top of the Empire State Building and piss on Barclays Center from there. You got the Devils. I mean, yeah, of course, everything is obviously more centrally located on the Eastern Seaboard.
So it's easier for them to schedule.
So it's easier. No, I'm not saying easier for them to schedule per se. It's like it's just geography that the opponents in their division are just closer to them, and I get that. That's not a problem, but like we had mentioned before, we all remember that February trip a few seasons ago where the Sharks went on. I think it set a record for like the most miles traveled on a road trip.
Yep.
And that's my point is, that the Sharks geographically are going to have to travel more miles than any other team. How do you let that happen? I mean, especially when you have teams like, as as Chris had pointed out, where it's just, whether it's Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or the New York teams or Jersey or whatever, that they're just more centrally located. Yeah, of course, that's what's going to happen. So give the Sharks, a break, or at least
preference in the scheduling.
A little bit of preference in the scheduling. Now, of course, you always have to deal with, especially a building like Staples, which is open like every night of the week, because there's concerts, there's circus, there's all sorts of the Grammys or whatever the hell's going on in there. They have stuff going on there 24/7. So I get that aspect of it. But at least, try to, come on, make a goddamn effort for Pete's sake. That's all I'm saying.
That's something that I point out for some of the arenas in the East, especially like ACC in Toronto. I mean, that's the same thing. That there's not really another venue in Toronto anymore that's big enough to have the concerts. Whenever there's a concert, concert goes through Toronto. It's a very busy building as well. The Molson Center, same diff, and especially in Ottawa in their arena too. So I think a lot of these, especially when you get into the Canadian arenas, you do have a lot of scheduling stuff that you do have to work around more than you would expect, based on just there isn't 4 stadiums in Ottawa, or you know what I mean.
Yeah. No. And that all has to go into the formula, and I'm sure that there's some grid, but I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that schedule maker's room when they're mapping this stuff out, because I tell you what, man, it looks like they are just like, okay, how can we make the most ratings? How can we get like a Chicago Buffalo in on at like 5 o'clock Eastern, because they'll both draw the most.
What just popped into my head when you said that about like being in the schedule maker's room when they're putting this together? I don't know if you ever watched Saturday Night Live when Jimmy Fallon used to do a character called like Nick, your company's computer guy.
Yeah.
It's like I just picture you in there, like as soon as he like schedules San Jose at Anaheim and then somewhere else, and then 2 days later back to LA, and you're like, move.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, let me get it at that fucker. Let me do it. So, I mean, it like I said, we can go on about this forever because, like I said, the Sharks, since their inception, have gotten boned by the schedule maker consistently. And it's not going to change. Not unless there's some kind of radical shift where you have more teams in the West. But I don't ever see that happen.
It's been us in Vancouver, really, that have really gotten the raw deal on the schedule.
Yeah. And to be honest, I mean, even Vancouver's their schedule is kind of easier than ours, anyways. We have the most.
Yeah, but they're usually right up with us. So, I mean, you gotta think that they have to come down to San Jose, LA, Anaheim. Sometimes sometimes they get the nice little trip through California and then go through to Phoenix, and then sometimes they go all over the place too. And it's not like it's kind of like they're kind of in the situation where we are, where we don't have like we don't have that LA Anaheim, that Edmonton Calgary closeness with anybody.
But we do have 2 Southern California teams, which are an hour flight away. So Generation X Wing kind of chimes in. He says the schedule maker works with team and venues. Teams have as much input as anyone to the schedule, and we've addressed that too. We said, then who is making the decision on behalf of the Sharks that says that these road trips are a good idea?
Well, and hold on, I just want to pop in here for a second, because Ian had a really good point about talking about Vancouver. The thing that I think is so goddamn stupid and serious is, do you remember the last time we played a regular season game against Vancouver?
Like what, November of last year?
Yeah, it was, like all of the games against Vancouver were like done by Thanksgiving. And do you know when the first time we see Vancouver
February
is?
14th.
No, March fucking 3rd.
I thought it was in February.
No, dude. I'm looking at the schedule. March 3rd at Vancouver. March 5th, we host Vancouver. And then March 29th, we go to Vancouver. And then March 31st, we host Vancouver. We are playing 2 back-to-backs against Vancouver this season. None of them happened until March. So are you kidding me? You go Thanksgiving through damn near past Valentine's Day, and you don't see a team? Are you kidding me?
In your division, no less.
Yeah, in your division, yet Vancouver was just down in California a week ago playing Anaheim and LA, but don't swing through here? What the fuck is that about?
Okay, so quick correction. February 28th. February 28th is our first game at Vancouver.
Well, okay.
4 p.m.
Unless he's looking at a different schedule, because the schedule that the Sharks handed out that I'm staring at on a placard on my wall says Thursday, March 3rd, Saturday, March 5th, Tuesday, March 29th, and Thursday, March 31st. Was that schedule changed?
Schedule on Sharks.com for February of 2016 is 4 p.m. at Vancouver, 2/28.
Wow, then somebody fucked up on this placard. I don't understand why they're handing it out. Well, I guess that's why they're handing them out en masse. Either way, the fact that we go to 2/28. I mean, seriously, we're gonna fucking pluck hairs over 3 days. The fact is that we play almost 5 months of hockey before seeing a team. Get the fuck out of here.
I totally agree. And it's ridiculous, and it's time that fans start saying something with their wallet, if anything.
Fans don't do anything with their wallet. I mean, remember how we were all going to stop watching hockey after the lockout, and then after the next lockout, we were for sure going to stop watching hockey this time, and then at the third one, we were fucking done, and then we still filled the arena in droves.
No, I mean, I know. We're sadists that way, right? I mean, we just take it and keep on coming, but
I have to. They'll deport me.
Right. I kind of getting back to the game though. There was one question that we didn't gloss over, and I'm just kind of curious what you guys think. Are we just not going to park anybody in front of the net anymore? Is that not a thing?
No, don't. I guess in order to park yourself in front of the net, you actually need to have possession of the puck in the offensive zone for longer than 3 seconds. You can't just skate into the zone and lose the puck right away. There's no time to get net front presence. I think that's the big problem, is their possession game has gone down the tubes, and I don't have the numbers for possession numbers in front of me. I'll be looking at them tomorrow, I'm sure, but they can't be good.
No. I mean, their face-offs were good tonight, but it's really frustrating when you have these perimeter shots and nobody is there, and make Jonas Enroth look like a Vezina candidate. Everything was in the crest. Every shot was in the crest. There was only a few shots.
That's called freezing. That's called freezing syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I mean, I could have been goalie for fucking LA, and if I had just stayed in one spot, made 95% of the stops.
It's also we're all, as Sharks fans, we're all very familiar with the backup goalie curse that this team has had forever. How many backup goalies have the Sharks made look like Vezina candidates? I mean,
I'm tired of it. I'm tired of people saying, "Oh, it's a curse," and I'm tired of the excuses. Just park your fucking ass right in front of the goaltender, push him, and get a penalty for Christ's sake. At least take an insurance, or not insurance,
ownership,
right? I mean,
and have you noticed since Hertl has been pushed into covering Couture's line, so to speak, covering Couture's position, have you noticed he's not getting to the net like he was in those first 4 games before
No,
his Couture injury.
I said it as a winger, he is more creative. As a center, he is more strapped down with responsibility.
Yeah, but no, the first 4 games he was playing center. He was centering that third line.
He was centering the third line and pulling much less.
He was getting in there. He's not doing it like he was.
He was trying less. His quality of competition was significantly
that too. Yes.
In his favor more than it is now. Right now, he's probably pulling some of the hardest assignments that he can probably pull in the lineup as we speak. I think that's a huge part of it.
Oh, no, I still don't understand why Ward just doesn't go and bulldoze Enroth and take a 2-minute minor, but just to let him know, hey, I'm going to be here all night, and don't get comfortable in there because I'm going to stick my ass right in front of your face.
Yeah, I don't
smell what the Rock is cooking. No, I'm sorry. Okay, hold on. Couple quickies to the tweets. We really need to get off rant mode and get back to the game.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you guys ranted all this time without me, and I'm trying to catch up.
I hear you. It's all good. So on the Twitter machine, our friend Jakey, who was at the game tonight. First off, he says, talk about the Joe Thornton injury. So. Anybody have an idea what the hell that was? At first, you had Randy Hahn talking about that maybe he had lost a blade when clearly that wasn't the issue. It was that he either took a board to the head or a knee to the head. He took something and clearly got his bell rung. Watching him try to get up was scary.
It might have been like an inner ear thing, because his balance was just so off that it's like, okay, maybe it was his inner ear. It just kind of jarred it, and he just couldn't get his footing.
My fear with this thing is obviously you don't have to hit your head to get a concussion. And my fear is that it's going to be one of these situations where he plays the rest of the game and he looks fine, and then in 2 days we're going to find out that he's out.
Yeah.
That's my biggest fear of all this.
And that's all the Sharks need at this point. I mean,
I can't remember. Syndrome?
I can't remember the Sharks starting off a season like this with so many injuries so fast. I mean, we've had seasons where, you get an injury maybe, 5-6 games of the year where a guy's out for like a week or so. But,
right.
a broken fibula in practice, we talking about practice. We talking about practice. And Couture, boom, out till Thanksgiving minimum. And then, and Ben Smith takes a weird one off the ear. I mean, this is, and what is the deal with Paul Martin? I'm still, unsure as to why he's out. All I've heard is lower body injury, and that's so goddamn obtuse. What the fuck? We have no idea what that means?
Somebody was saying that he hit a rut in the ice, and that it might have tweaked something. So maybe a groin.
Yeah.
Oh, well, shit. All right. Well, anyway, that's we don't know, Jake. We know nothing about the injury to Thornton.
No,
all we can do is sit here and
nothing.
speculate. Yeah, hopefully it's nothing, but all we can do is speculate.
Paging Dr. Reed.
Yeah.
To the operating
actually, Dr. Bench on Twitter basically said that there's no way that looked like a concussion when he went.
I know.
When he got head first into the board and then fell onto the ice and then got up and wobbled around, definitely no obvious signs of a concussion there, not at all.
No, it was hilarious. It's like, did you look at the GIF? I mean, you didn't even have to watch the video. Did you look at the GIF?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I don't mean to pick on Bench, but at the same time, it's like, how can you not think that there's that there's even a potential of a concussion there? And I know they said after the game that he went through the concussion protocol and everything was great, but man, that's the thing that worries me about the concussion protocol is that is a team really going to let is a team really going to let them take a Joe Thornton out of the lineup if he thinks he can go? And of course the answer is, of course the fuck not. If Joe Thornton thinks he can go, he's going to go, and that's just part of the they're never going to get that out of the league, in my opinion.
No, they're not.
Because he came from the generation of take an aspirin, here's some smelly salt, and get back on the ice.
That's right. Yeah, take this needle.
Yeah. I don't know about that rut on the ice that you had mentioned. I heard that was Couture,
No,
not Martin.
I saw somebody tweet about it, and like I said, I'm not even sure. I just happened to see it, and I was like, at this point, I have no idea. It could have been a block shot. It could have been a rut in the ice. It could have been, a pulled knee. I have no idea.
Well, it took some practice, today. So with any luck, what do we got on the schedule? We got Carolina in 2 nights. I don't know that we'll see Martin and in Carolina versus Carolina, but I would hope and think that we'll probably see him versus Nashville. Let's hope to God at this point.
Yeah.
A couple more things on Twitter and whatnot. We will get to the Carolina preview in the moment. A couple more things. Let me hit on them. I gotta find them. They were just here. Oh, ask the panel.
Mm-hmm.
Your favorite San Jose Sharks team ever, but you're not allowed to say the 93-94 team. Wow, what a dick to lay that caveat in there. But your favorite team overall. See, I don't even know that I could really answer that. I mean, I could put my all-time lineup together of favorite players, but
Sure.
I don't know that I could put a favorite team together. I'm assuming that he said, you can't say the 93-94 team because it's the first team to ever go to the playoffs, and you have the Jamie Baker goal and the first season in San Jose and whatnot. If anything, I mean, you could obviously go with the President's Trophy, winning team. But for me, I'd actually I think I'd go maybe 99-2000 when you had that series against St. Louis, when we had Ricci and Sundstrom and Scott Thornton, best third line that the Sharks have ever had. You had a shitload of grit. They cycled harder than any other team. They would pound you. That was the thing about that brief time during the Sharks, at least that era during Darryl Sutter. They had that team going where if they were going, if the Sharks, a perfect example is tonight. The Sharks were down 3-0, 4-0. The game is pretty much 3-0, 3-1, 4-1. The game, for the most part, is pretty much iced. We know that the Sharks are not coming back from this. And that Darryl Sutter era where you had that third line, you had Nolan, you had Damphus, you had some gritty fucking guys on that team, and they were essentially telling you, you know what? Okay, you might beat us on the scoreboard tonight. You're gonna feel this game on the way back to the hotel. You're gonna feel it on the flight home. You're gonna feel it in the next game because we're gonna pound you. We're gonna hit you. We're gonna just drill you. Even if you get us on the scoreboard, you're gonna feel this game for a while. And that team around 2000, you had the whole thing with Chris Pronger and the big whiny defenseman and Owen Nolan's shot from center ice with 5 seconds left. That was a hell of a team, and they were some scrappy. They were just a scrappy bunch. What do you think, Ian?
One time, for a little bit, I've always watched the Sharks, but I kind of fell out of, just religious watching hockey for a little bit, and the season that really pulled me back in again was the 01-02 season where they beat Phoenix in, I think it was 5 games, and then we had that series with Colorado.
Teemu Solani.
Yes. That was the year that really got me really hardcore back into hockey, because I'd kind of just been out of it a little bit. Yeah, so I'd say the 01-02 team might have been one of my favorites, because it was, again, just like you said, it wasn't a good team. It was just the little engine that could, and it's frustrating now because that team, basically played over its head. I'm sure Colorado and Detroit were probably fighting it out in the conference finals that year, and it's sometimes it's nice to I almost miss sometimes, instead of having the team that's expected to go, having the team that just shouldn't do fuck all and does.
Well, and I kind of feel a little bit similar about the 03-04 team that
Yeah.
just came so close to,
Oh yeah,
all the
the
way.
Calgary series too. Yeah, I mean
And then
that
you had
kind of
that goddamn lockout the next year.
yeah. The 01-02 and then the 03 the 02-03 season was gone. So the 03-04 season.
No, it
Yeah,
was the 03 it was the 04-05
yeah, the
season.
04-05 season. You're right. Yeah, so the 03-04. Yeah, I mean, kind of in there. The 01-02 and then like the 03-04. It's hard to pick between those two teams because again, there was a lot of the little engine that could and not so much. This is a Stanley Cup team. Damn it.
Yeah. Landy, yours?
I like the 10-11 team.
Oh, how dare you? No, I'm just kidding.
No, because the playoff series against LA, I really enjoyed, because it took, it was the series.
That was the fuck up on Figueroa, right?
Exactly, and so what I find when I guess most endearing to me is when I say, you know what, fuck you guys aren't giving it, they were getting whipped real bad, and just like, you know what, if you guys aren't gonna put the time in, then I'm gonna, it just I gotta let go and gotta go do something else. And then I couldn't pull myself away from it, so I was listening on the radio. They got one goal, and they got another goal. I was like, okay, you guys really gonna do this to me? So then I sit back down, and what do you know, they come back for it. So
there was the thing about that game with the fuck up on Figueroa. I remember it very vividly because I remember like the Sharks were down 3-0, and this is like a game in April, and I just remember going. After they were down 3-0, I was like, well, okay, the Giants game is on right now, right? And I switched over there for like a few minutes. All of a sudden, my phone went off, and I was like, oh, they got one. Oh, okay, let's take a look at this, and then finally, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to. I'm like pot committed. I have to see this through, and yeah that was pretty phenomenal.
That was, and I think for me at least, that was the closest that they ever came to going all the way. I think that team was the best built. But the goaltending, besides goaltending.
Yeah. Okay, so final tweet, and then we'll hit Carolina real quick, and then get the hell out. God damn, I can't believe it's almost midnight. So I was asked a question on Twitter. Jake would like me to. I guess elaborate on why I hate Andrew Bench so much.
All night.
I'm not really sure where that comes from. I don't hate the guy. Sometimes some of his articles have, he's written a couple of worthwhile articles here and there that once or twice I go, oh, okay, that's an interesting viewpoint. Didn't think about that. Wasn't something I'd considered at the time. But then we're also talking about times where I've seen him, send out 7 tweets in a week talking about how bad the Sharks need to bring back Christian Ehrhoff. Now, granted, Christian Ehrhoff had a decent game tonight, and that's good for him. But if you look at the previous games since this season has started, he's pretty much sucked the high hard one. So it's just, and the fact that Andrew, he would sit there and defend his position. He's one of those guys where you could sit there sometimes and tell him that the color of the wall is red. You could bring in professional paint specialists and spectrum analyzers to show you that this color is in fact red, and he goes, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I see purple. So sometimes it seems like once he finds a position, he cannot back down from it, which can be a little silly because nobody gets it right every time. And even today, one of the funniest things, or at least something that I got a kick out of, is he talked about how everybody laughed at me when I picked Dallas to win the Central, and look at them now. And first 2 things that popped in my head were, first off, no, you weren't the only one to pick Dallas to win the Central. I know of a couple other people that were very high on Dallas to do well. And
playoff team.
Yeah, exactly. And number 2, the last time I checked, no division has ever been won in the month of October. So it's just sometimes, and he's also a lot of it has to do with just the whole rock and roll part 2 discussion that he had, and if you don't know what that is, Jake, if you feel like going back through his timeline, have at it. But for that, I would say, yeah, I think he's completely wrong on his stance on Rock and Roll Part 2, but that's where it is. Like I said, I don't hate the guy. He has some good articles from here, here and there, and then he has other articles that make me scratch my head going, what game is he watching? So it's okay. That you can't expect a whole lot from a guy whose favorite player is Milan Mahalik. But anyway, I'm sorry. I had to get that in there. Come on. So anyway, the goddamn pen is blue. So anyway,
there's some awesome stuff going on in the chat, like just like his love for Desjardins, which I like Desjardins too, but
he was another gritty guy, and that's okay. Now, see, you just pointed out a beautiful thing. We traded Desjardins for Ben Smith.
Yes.
Why do you make that move if you're not going to start Ben Smith regularly? That's one of the things. I understand you want to trade for some depth and whatnot, but it just, like, how many games did we play before Ben Smith got into the lineup? Like 5?
Stupid.
Yeah.
Because Mike Brown's in the lineup for some stupid reason.
Exactly. What? Really? Mike Brown? And then what was so great is he got that goal in the game. Oh, well, that's why we're playing Mike Brown. Get the fuck out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, we just need a mustache on the team. That's all it is.
Oh, Chris Edwards just shredding in the chat here, just like explaining, having to explain the combine to bench and they got the win for the playoffs. It's just stuff like that where because I think sometimes bench will say things, and this is kind of the only thing that really irks me with bench. And I don't really want to speak too ill of other writers because I think it's bad form, but
totally agree.
Sometimes I feel like bench will try to expert on a topic that he should not be trying to expert on, and he'll say that he doesn't it's, well, I don't watch prospects, but here's my opinion, and you're kind of like, but based on what then?
Yeah, no, that's exactly I mean, you nailed my point better than I could have. That's exactly it sometimes with him, and it's kind of what I would refer to as like the Skip Bayless school of writing, reporting, whatever you want to call it, where it's just like, I'm just going to throw a bunch of shit at the wall and see what sticks, and when it does stick, I'm going to send out 20 tweets patting myself on the back, pointing out to everybody how I was right this one time, and completely sweep under the rug that I didn't know what the hell I was talking about the previous 10 things that I had said. But
so Chris makes a great point.
He's never made a great point in his life.
Prospects aren't mainstream enough for him, and those are his words. And then he suddenly tries to be an expert on it. He wrote a Chris Tierney piece, and it was just like, it was well written, and he made some good points. But it's like, boy, when you immediately or preemptively tackle your own credit and then try and explain on it, I don't know that that's the best recipe for success, and that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, I think I don't want to get too overly silly about it because, again, it's just really shitty of me as a writer, especially someone who writes as often as I do, to start talking down to other writers that have been, frankly, writing about the Sharks longer than I have. So that's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah, no, exactly. So yeah,
I'm not trying to talk down to him or talk bad about him, but I think this could be said for the vast majority of writers, is that a decent amount of them, I mean, Tim Kawakami, local, well-respected guy for the Mercury here locally, writes about all the teams, whether it's the Niners, the Warriors, Sharks, what have you. Not every one of his pieces is a Pulitzer winner. This is a gentleman who wrote after the Sharks were eliminated from the playoffs. This is a gentleman who wrote a huge column basically tallying off and checkmarking every single reason why the Sharks should trade Patrick Marleau. And the following season, Marleau had his career year. So if you look at that in hindsight and whatnot, it basically makes Kawakami look like a complete and utter moron that knows nothing about hockey. Now, if you write that article directly after Marleau has his career season, then maybe there's something you can say about that, because then it's a case of his trade value will never be higher.
Yeah.
but the fact that time and situation, like I said, Kawakami, or just writers in general, show me the guy that hits it 100% on the money every time, and I'll tell that person, well, then why the fuck aren't you in Vegas putting your money on it? That's all.
That's right.
No,
But we should. But
we should start to head out.
Yeah.
But
Carolina.
Carolina.
And let
Carolina.
me ask Ian. You have your numbers, right? I need the wins, losses. What's going on?
Carolina sucks. Give me a second.
That's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know. Carolina's a terrible fucking team. Give me a second here. I will find you some standings.
They do have Noah Hannafin, though.
They do have Noah Hannafin, and I'm actually looking forward to watching him to play. The Carolina Hurricanes are second last in the Metro. They have 2 wins and 4 losses in their 6 games played. A goal differential of -5.
Yep. So So that pretty much sums it up. It's one of those.
How's their last couple have?
What's their last 10?
Well, I was gonna say. Well, I don't want to say their last 10.
2-4-0.
Yeah, okay, but no. What I meant, what I wanted to say was, is this their is this like the second of back-to-backs? Are we on the road? No, this is the first of back-to-backs, and then they're facing LA the next night, right?
No, LA is Friday night.
Friday night. We will catch them on the.
Okay, yeah, that's
second end of a back-to-back.
So this is a typical Sharks trap game where they will play down to their opponent, and this will tell us whether or not Peter DeBoer has actually done anything. This game right here is classic Sharks, where they'll suck so bad, and then they'll lose in overtime 1-0.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm sorry. I was just because I'm looking at the schedule, and I'm seeing we have Carolina, and then next Wednesday Nashville. Do I have shit in my eyes, or on the 31st are we playing Dallas at noon, and then the very next day playing Colorado at noon?
No, you don't have shit in your eyes. That is correct.
Serious?
Yeah.
Wow, that is the most bizarre back-to-back I've ever seen, and I'm assuming we'll see Stalock in one of those games, probably against Colorado, since Colorado sucks. So, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
But with Carolina, what are we thinking there? Any predictions, boys and girls? Do we continue the losing streak, or do we get back on the right way? I love the fact that try to make your prediction now that Landy's called it a trap game.
Let me just tell you this: if the Sharks lose this game, then it tells me nothing has changed. If they win this game, then the hope is still alive that they've tried to do something different. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to do any kind of prognostication because I want to see what they do.
I will prognosticate.
What was that word?
Prognosticate. Prognosticate, all right?
That's not what you said. You're making up words, Landy.
Yeah. It's late.
It's late. We've had drinks. Finish it off.
I'm prognosticating. I'll prognosticate a little bit here. I think that with Paul Martin skating today, that I'm hoping that he will be back in the lineup, and I think that will shore up some problems. Although I think we talked about this last week about who do we miss more, Couture or Martin? I'm starting to think maybe we're missing Couture a little more with the way our special teams have gone to shit.
Well,
look at our special teams have gone to shit.
That's a great point.
1 for 16, and since Couture went down on the power play, our penalty kills hasn't been that much better, especially the last 2 games.
That goes back into something that we were talking about just before you came on, whereas Martin seems to be like the linchpin on the defense. You take him out, the whole thing falls like a house of cards. And then the same thing with like the power play and Couture. You take one player out, and the whole thing just collapses. How is that possible?
All right, we're not opening this can of worms.
Wait,
again.
Well, no, I'm just let Ian make his point. Damn it!
All right.
All right, you're on the clock.
All right, I'm sorry, I'm on the clock, so I will try and be quick because I know I missed this conversation. I think the problem isn't so much that they're linchpins. The problem is that the way that we've deployed our lines in their absence. I think that when you pull up, I think that when you pull up guys like instead of sticking Goldobin back in the lineup, you go with a line of Haley and Burns and Lurg, or Brown, sorry, and Lurg. I mean, that's just silly talk. The fact that we haven't seen them try to put Vlasic with Burns this whole time and keep trying to jam that round peg into the wrong hole with the Dylan Burns, and then when Dylan Burns wasn't working, they stuck him with Mirko fucking Mueller.
Yeah.
Because that worked even better last year. The problem is the way that the Sharks have tried to adapt their lines to doing what they need to do. You know what I mean? To doing what they need to do. They need to get Carlson back in this lineup. That's another thing. The second Carlson's ready to go, they need him back up. Even throw him on the fourth line so we can get back up to speed on the fourth line. I would much rather him there than Lurg, Lee, Brown, the Cookie Monster, whoever else they can find down in the fucking AHL right now.
Now, see,
also,
can you see that a week from now? Can you see a week from now us getting Carlson back healthy, Martin back healthy, and Smith? I mean, those are. It's not Couture, but
also for Donskoy.
Yeah, and Donskoy. I forgot about that. So yes, perfect. So do you think we can have those 4 players back by Nashville at the latest, Dallas? So in 3 games. To me, that seems possible.
Yeah, I think we could get Donskoy. I think we could get Martin. I don't know about Smith, man. I don't even know what's wrong with Smith. All I know is he took a puck in the ear, and I don't know how that's even survivable.
I hear Kermit the Frog has a wicked backhander.
We could get Kermit the Frog in there, Big Bird.
Oh, he's a great defenseman.
He is a great defenseman.
All right.
All right, I'm done. I'm sorry.
All right, AJ. What's your prediction?
3-2 win. And I'm going to say Pavelski with the game winner. And I'm out Saturday, so you guys get to hold down the fort while I get to work.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, I'm going to say 3-2 win, and it's probably going to be in overtime.
All right, well, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. AJ Strong with a 3-2 win for the Sharks in overtime.
And you know what? And if I get it right, I will bench the shit out of it, and then after.
All right.
Bench the shit out of it, and the Pucknology After Dark after the Nashville game, I will break my arm, patting myself on the back for that incredible prognostication.
Has Bench calling his lawyer yet, do you think?
All right. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sticking around. We still have viewers. I can't believe it.
And make sure to promote that we are doing this, apparently so far this season, we are doing this after every game. We are not taking one game off. Throw up the goddamn screen with all our user ID. If you could do us a favor, please, spread the word, hit the subscribe button underneath here, because we do have a good time trying to do this, and we try to be entertaining, and we love interacting with everybody who's either on using the Pucknology After Dark hashtag, or if you happen to be on the Google chat, like Chris Edwards, Richard Davalos, we see you on there trying to get to your stuff. So absolutely, please spread the word. In fact, on Twitter, QuakesFan84 says 3-1 Sharks is his prediction. So he's clearly not going for the overtime game.
All right. Well, please subscribe. The link is at the bottom below. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell anybody who likes the Sharks. It always helps us out. So thank you very much. Have a great night, and hope we have better days ahead.